My wheezing.
I think turn it off.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to New York City DSA's post-election call. Our time is here. My name is Grace. I'm one of the co-chairs of New York City DSA, and we will get started in just 1 minute here. And in the meantime, feel free to say hello in the chat, share your name, maybe where you're calling in from, and what you're excited about in this moment. All right, it is 7:02. We are trying to keep this to a tight hour. So I'm going to kick things off by passing it to my fellow co-chair, Gustavo Gordillo.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gustavo. Like Grace said, I'm one of the co-chairs of the New York City Democratic Socialists of America. Welcome to all of you. This week, we made history. We won the biggest victory for socialism in the United States in generations. For the first time in decades, the business titans and the power brokers who have ruled this city are not the only ones in charge anymore. They have to contend with all of you. We've defeated our billionaire opponents, the Waltons, Ackman, Musk, Trump, Langone, the billionaires who crush our unions, impoverish workers, and create divisions among us in order to enrich themselves. After he won the primary, Zohran said, in our New York, the power belongs to the people. Now we can say we organized and we decisively won a mandate for a Democratic Socialist mayor, and we refuse to apologize for it. On election day, when I was doing poll visibility, my poll partner and I ran into a comrade doing his route as an Amazon worker. The three of us stood there together, about to gain one of the biggest allies that workers will ever have had in the city. This mayoralty's success will be measured by whether we can show what it means to put power in the hands of the people. Will we tax the rich like we did before in 2021 and generations past? Will we win a rent freeze, fast and free buses, and universal childcare? Will Amazon and Starbucks workers 4 years from now have made progress unionizing their companies and winning strong contracts? Zohran is the first mayor, the first New York City mayoral candidate to win over 1 million votes since John Lindsay in 1969. Together, we totally transformed the electorate, something even Bernie could never do, and something that many of us questioned whether it was even possible to do. People under 30 voted at 4 times the rate they did in the previous mayoral election in 2021. People under 50 made up a majority of everyone who voted at all. These numbers were inconceivable before this election. And it was New York City DSA's central role in the campaign that made all of that possible. We built a bench of socialist candidates, and we built a door-knocking army for 10 years. We were the first organization to endorse Zohran, and in fact, Zohran felt that we were so essential that he could not have run his campaign without the support of his political home, the New York City Democratic Socialists of America. We were outspent in this campaign 7-1. Cuomo and his allies spent $50 million this cycle trying to defeat Zohran and our vision of a city for the working class. Last cycle, I worked on Jamal Bowman's race through GSA, and after his loss, I wasn't sure if it was possible for the left to defeat that scale of money in the moment of politics that we're facing now. Zohran's race showed all of us that a better world is possible and we can defeat the billionaire class. Democratic socialism is on the rise. 26% of New York City voters identify as Democratic Socialists, according to the exit polls from this campaign. A majority of Democratic Party registrants view socialism more favorably than capitalism. If you're one of those thousands of New Yorkers, New York City DSA is your home. I urge you tonight to join DSA, to find a political home, to find community, and to keep the fight going so that we can have Zohran's back and win our working class agenda together. We're putting up a QR code right now on the screen. That's the best way to join. If you take out your phones right now, um, you'll be guided to our dues page, and you can select the level of dues that you can afford. For us, we're funded only by our members. We don't accept large dollar donations, just like our candidates don't accept corporate money and money from wealthy donors themselves. This is what keeps us independent. It's what allows us to have a strategy that's guided by the working class, by our members, by ourselves. We don't have anyone pulling strings. We don't have wealthy donors who can suddenly change our priorities. I joined DSA after the first Trump administration out of fear. I felt a political awakening 2 years later when I saw AOC win her congressional primary, and I decided to commit myself to this movement. I felt power and agency over the world for the first time a few years after that, after starting, winning, and being part of an eco-socialist campaign that passed the Build Public Renewables Act into law. And we started to transform New York's energy system into one that's fueled by affordable, publicly owned renewable energy. If you were inspired by Zohran and you're not a member of DSA yet, this is your moment to find a political home, to get in the fight, because I think all of us promised that we would be in this fight past election day. That moment's here, and I urge you all to join us in DSA. And I'm going to pass it back to my co-chair, Grace.
Thanks, Gustavo. All right. I'm thrilled to have on with us tonight Michael Lang, who is a political writer and New York City's left whisperer, as he has been called. He's worked with Representative Nydia Velasquez and City Council member Yusef Salaam, and he writes for a Substack newsletter, The Narrative Wars, which hopefully many of you are already subscribed to, but if you're not, you should be. We invited him on today because we in DSA and many others think his electoral analysis is among the sharpest in understanding the Mamdani coalition and the campaign's path to victory. So today he's with us to tell us how we arrived at Tuesday's decisive victory. I'm so excited to have him on. I've known him for many years and just seen him get sharper and sharper with each passing year. And we're all here to learn what insights he can share. So Michael, over to you when you're ready.
I'm ready. Thank you, Grace. I hope to live up to that lovely introduction. I guess to start, I would say that I remember being on a similar mass call like this 4 months ago. And, the general election, I think, was very competitive. But just to see Zohran get the most votes of any candidate for mayor in the last 60 years, to break 50% in a three-way race with, 30 plus million spent against him again, I think was really remarkable. So if we go to the next slide, I'd love to talk about the electoral map, some observations and some thoughts going forward. So you can see there Mamdani blue, Cuomo kind of that yellowish gold. I think it's important to start with, our favorite part of the city, the Commie Corridor, right? You can see that from the primary to the general, Mamdani kept really strong support all throughout Astoria, Northern Brooklyn, Bedford-Stuyvesant, the neighborhoods that are very young and have been a part of DSA remaking the electoral landscape of New York City since 2018. Mamdani, as the Democratic nominee, also performed quite well in some of, I would say, like more of the brownstone Brooklyn neighborhoods around Prospect Park. These are some of the most liberal progressive, but also Democratic leaning constituencies in the city. They were very friendly to him in the primary as well, and that was a big part of the victorious coalition. You can also see that in certain parts of Manhattan, particularly the Upper East Side, Andrew Cuomo did quite well. I would, some of this is certainly a consequence of uh, Israel Palestine, a consequence of old moneyed wealth. The billionaire class is certainly quite well represented on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan. I would also like to turn people's attention to the more suburban stretches of the city, Southern Brooklyn, Northeast Queens, Staten Island. This is a really interesting mix of kind of older white ethnic homeowners, Russian, Russian speaking immigrants from the former Soviet Union. These are traditionally Republican areas. They were big parts of the coalitions of Rudy Giuliani and Michael Bloomberg, dwindling in numbers, but they overwhelmingly went for Cuomo. We saw Curtis Sliwa's support collapse. And I would counter by also saying that if we look at Upper Manhattan, kind of parts of Eastern Brooklyn and Southeast Queens, these are historically Black and Hispanic neighborhoods, especially the South Bronx, that Andrew Cuomo did very well in the Democratic primary. In some cases, he won Black voters by double digits. In some neighborhoods, he won by 20, 30, 40%. You reverse that in the general election, Mamdani improved exponentially among the Black and Hispanic working class. And frankly, he not only does not, if Cuomo matches or even comes close to some of his numbers in those areas from the primary in the general election, Mamdani not only does not get 50%, he doesn't even win to begin with. So I think for as incredible as the primary coalition was, kind of a coalition of New York's middle classes, I think it only got more, not only more diverse racially, but more diverse in terms of class, And I think that in many respects, it kind of embodies the coalitions that used to drive left politics in New York City. David Dinkins famously, and this is the title of the slide, he had the Rainbow Coalition, which was very rooted in labor, rooted in Black and Hispanic outer borough neighborhoods, and rooted also just broadly in kind of the working middle and the upper middle class. But it was very indexed towards renters. I think what Zohran accomplished on Tuesday, again, in the face of, I would say, a reactionary wave against him, is the modern day iteration of that coalition. And as you can see on the left, some very, I think, key demographics in terms of, the base that we have been building and are looking to build. I think Mamdani really capitalized on that. You can see 18 to 29 was Mamdani plus 60. Specifically in that, among Black voters, 18 to 29, Mamdani won, I believe, 84%. Among Hispanic voters, 18 to 29, he won 86%. I mean, these are runaway margins. Muslim voters, Mamdani plus 30, public transit commuters plus 29. You can kind of see on the map it relatively neatly mirrors, the subway lines. Renters, a big part of the primary coalition. It only added to that in the general, plus 25. And then you can see kind of those big improvements with Black and Hispanic constituencies all across the city. And I think what's also, so Cuomo, I will say, just disclaimer, he did still win a handful of blocks in some of these Black neighborhoods, but largely that was in like the oldest developments in the city, like explicitly senior centers. Mamdani swept everywhere else. And I think this was also a symptom. This extended, he won like a more low income neighborhood like Brownsville. He won working class neighborhoods like East Flatbush. And then he also won middle class Black neighborhoods like Canarsie and, a large spectrum of Southeast Queens. So I found that very interesting as well. You can also see that amongst the most middle income New Yorkers, he won, household incomes 30 to 50K, 50 to 100K. He also won 100 to 200K. These were all Mamdani double digit constituencies. And if you also look at kind of what the electorate, how they were feeling in terms of like, I want someone honest and trustworthy. This is the most important one, I would argue. I want someone who will work for people like me. He won those voters by almost 50 points. And when people are going into the polls, they were saying overwhelmingly that the cost of living was the most important issue in the city. Crime was less than half of that, immigration less than a fifth. if you would have done those same exit polls 4 years ago, crime would have easily dwarfed the cost of living. And I also, and I think to close, I would say that he got over 1 million votes. He got over 50%. These are tremendous accomplishments in the context of what the campaign was facing. In bringing back to David Dinkins, Dinkins won in 1989 under, I would say, like a relatively similar set of circumstances, a Democratic constituency under facing a very reactionary and polarizing backlash to it. And I think Dinkins, 4 years later, ran in a rematch with Giuliani, almost with the same coalition, and lost very narrowly. And I think it will be the forces that tried to stop Zohran are never going to stop organizing. And I think it is incumbent on all of us here to never lose sight of that, and that this coalition, beautiful as it is strong but also fragile. But I do not think that we have scratched the surface in terms of what Mamdani and DSA and the broad coalition that we are all kind of part of can continue to build. So thank you folks for having me. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you, Michael. Love these numbers and love the comparison to Dinkins. In fact, our first Democratic Socialists of America mayor. So love the continuity there. All right, we will move along. I'm now really excited to introduce a friend and mentor of mine, in many ways, the godmother of DSA's electoral strategy, Tasha Van Auken, who many of you have undoubtedly met through your work volunteering with the Zohran campaign. Tasha has been a DSA member since 2017. She was part of founding and really steering our electoral working group. And then she went ahead and managed Julio Salazar's 2018 campaign, which was one of our first major successes as a chapter. She didn't stop there, though. She managed Ferris Front Forest 2020 campaign. She served on our steering committee as the campaigns coordinator in 2024. And now she's driven Zohran's field campaign to victory. So I am honored to call her a friend, and I'm honored to invite her on to this call now. So Tasha, over to you.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Grace. The honor is all mine. You are expertly one of the steerers of our chapter along with Gustavo, and that is not an easy job. And I'm very, very thankful to have you at the helm. So thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here with so many people who I know played such a huge role in this victory. As Grace mentioned, I've been a DSA member since 2017. I started working on electoral politics in 2008 on the Obama campaign in 2008 for just a couple months. Had a really incredible field program, and it really shaped a lot of the ways that I think about field, which is a whole other topic. But I think one thing that really appealed to me about electoral politics from the first time that I joined, because that was how I became political, and that was like part of my path to politics. I've always seen electoral politics as an on-ramp for people into a longer road of being political. And so that experience, the experience that people have when they join a campaign, always felt really, really important to me. And I think through my experience in DSA and working on some of the campaigns that Grace mentioned, and working with many other members of DSA, I think sort of theory of change and a path to victory on campaigns has been developed over the last few years. And I think we really used that and just scaled it much, much bigger on Zohran's campaign. And there's no way to go into all of the pieces of it in just a few minutes. So I want to touch on the piece that is most important to me. And I'll start just by, I see folks can react on this, which is great. If you were a field lead on this campaign, can you react in the chat, a thumb or a heart or anything? Amazing, amazing. And that I think is one of the core central pieces of this campaign's theory of change and our path to victory. It started and we invested in very early on leadership development, volunteer leadership development, especially. There is no path to victory through field. On a campaign like this of this size without a massive, massive volunteer operation. And you don't have a volunteer operation of that size that can onboard tens of thousands of people without lots and lots of people who step into leadership and are trained to lead campaigns and run campaigns and welcome all of these people into the movement. I think oftentimes if you join a typical sort of conventional campaign out there in the world, you might hear like, you don't need to canvass early. You don't need to talk to voters early. Like that doesn't matter as much. And the reason why we do it and why we did it on this campaign is because the process of training folks how to lead canvases, how to train others, how to identify other people that can then be leaders as well, is really, really important. And it's really important to invest in that early. And so that's what we did. And I think throughout this campaign, we held field lead trainings about once every month. And in this last month of the general, I think we had like 4 field lead trainings. And by the end of the field lead trainings, it was mostly volunteers were leading those trainings. And so I think the sort of core piece of any campaign that is going to scale and be big and be sort of have a mass action component is leadership replication and essentially going into it, figuring out how you can replicate yourself as fast as possible. I think I want to talk about one other thing that I think is really, really important for this campaign and for our whole movement. I don't know if any of you have experienced campaigns in the past that had some energy and may have felt like a bit of a flash in the pan. There's all this energy, there's all this excitement, and then it goes away because people don't know what's next. That's something that I experienced early on in politics when I first started getting involved, and the sort of experiencing the shift from something with so much energy to then like not having a place to go was something that is like it's a pretty upsetting experience. And the thing that I want to say about this campaign is that we know that this is not a flash in the pan. And the reason why we know that this isn't a flash in the pan is because there has already been long-term organizing by this democratic organization and others that has led to this moment. And I think that the work that has led to this moment, I keep telling folks that I've been talking to the last couple weeks of the campaign that I feel the history that has led to this campaign really, really strongly. Like I really feel that history. And I remember all of the pieces and the different campaigns and the different highs and the different lows and the moments when we felt like, oh, this is really tough, which wasn't that long ago. I feel it a lot and just so thankful of the continuity of an organization where you have enough structure and enough belief in all of the people that you're working in to withstand the really hard moments so that you can get to the really high moments because you learn from all of it. And I think that organization, having a long-term organization is really, really, really a huge and crucial piece to the success of this campaign and to what comes next. I think that what DSA has done for me personally over the last 8 years, since 2017, when I first joined the Brooklyn Electoral Working Group, which is now a citywide electoral working group, is that I have been allowed to be part of and shaped by other people in this organization. I've been allowed to try things with other people, watch them succeed, watch the experiments we tried maybe not work as well. Um, and I've been able to learn more than I ever would have if I wasn't part of an organization. Um, and I think back to the very, very beginning of the Brooklyn Electoral Working Group and the blueprint that was created then and the people that were a part of it. And I can't mention everybody, but just to like shout out a couple people off the top of my head, you had folks like Jasmine, who came and basically created the job description of a field lead. Like, this is what a field lead does. Literally wrote it down and did the first like training of trainers during the formation of the Brooklyn Electoral Working Group. You had folks like Renee who came in and was like, we need a campaign committee. We need to do all of these things to be serious about this, and helped us be orient in a really serious and disciplined way. And there are so many people over the last 8 years through this organization who have contributed thought and contributed skills and helped to teach and replicate themselves through this organization that has brought us to this point. So I think that when I think about theory of change and I think about path to victory, it's very hard for me to think about it only in terms of the last year. And I can't help but really think about the last 8 years and beyond, of course, because things led there, but definitely the last 8 years. And so I can't say enough how important this organization is to me and is to this victory and where we've landed. Um, and I really encourage anybody, if you are not a member of DSA right now, I really encourage you to join and join with generosity for all the other people that you're going to be in this like big experiment with, fighting for a shared vision. And I'm so thankful to be on here and really thankful to all the people who put this call together, and really, really, really excited for what's next. Even if it feels a little daunting, I think there has never been a moment like this.
Thank you, Tasha, for that lovely, lovely reflection and motivation and for everything you've done. And I will move us forward. I am thrilled to welcome on Congressman Jamal Bowman. Jamal Bowman, as you all certainly know, is a former U.S. representative, a community leader, and a public school principal. But I'm biased. I think most importantly, he's also a DSA member who fought a very, very hard fight alongside us against moneyed interest. It was the most expensive congressional race in history. And we didn't win that one, but he is still fighting with us and lending his voice and his time and all of his credibility to the fights that we're in together. So we're thrilled to welcome him on with us. But over to you.
Of course. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Grace, for that introduction, and thank you all so much for being here tonight. Huge shout out to NYC DSA. Congratulations on making freaking history and changing the world. Like, this moment is just overwhelming. Like, I'm overwhelmed with all kinds of emotion, joy, inspiration, opportunity, love, humanity, like all the things we all care about and been fighting for our entire lives. We're at this moment right now, and it almost doesn't feel real. But here we are, and it's a beautiful, powerful thing. Shout out to Tasha, man. I just want to give her some extra love. I mean, to organize that field program, I dropped in one of the chats I'm in the other day. I mean, that field program was as large as some of the corporations we are trying to tax so that we could pay for universal child care. She had a field program that freaking big. And I want to elevate what she said about the field lead. So anyone on here who was a field lead, shout out to you. We thank you. We appreciate you. We are grateful for you. We love you. Your leadership helped bring this home. And Tasha like illustrated or made vocal a leadership principle that is so important. You train people up and you allow them to go do their thing. Let them go do their work. And everyone on this team did that work, man. So I'm just super inspired by everyone on this call. And so I was asked to talk a little bit about what this means to me personally. I don't want to get too deep into it, but after I lost my race last year against APAC, everyone knows about that race. 25 million spent against me. We fought as hard as we could alongside DSA. We weren't able to win that race. I was down for a very long time, just like personally, emotionally, spiritually. It was hurtful and it was hard to deal with. And the thing that gave me hope, the thing that like lit the fire back under me was my first meeting with Zohran when he told me he was running for mayor. Like that was the thing that brought the little flicker back initially, and then even when he was at 1%, as he started to gain momentum, talk to people on the streets, tell his story, create the narrative, and as his campaign gained momentum, I personally got stronger and stronger and stronger and got back to my old self, which made it easier for me to lean in and support the campaign, wherever the campaign needed me. And I say that and tell that story because I know many of you share that story. Many of you plugged into this campaign because of our belief in him and because of our belief in what he was fighting for, an affordable New York City for everyone. And, we know about freezing the rent. We know about fast and free busing. We know about universal childcare. I just want to say a couple quick things about it. So I grew up on the Upper East Side of Manhattan in a rent stabilized apartment. My mother was able to pay rent in that apartment based on a postal worker's salary. After 30 years, that state policy ran out and my mother's rent shot up to market rate. So we were in a 2-bedroom apartment, shot up to market rate. My mother couldn't afford to stay there and she had to move to a gentrified studio apartment in the Bronx. So when Zoran's talking about freezing the rent, it's for me. Like he's talking about a policy that helped me as I was growing up in New York City, go to better schools, live in a better community, have an overall better life. As it was mentioned, I'm an educator, lifelong educator before I went to Congress, middle school principal. When we get universal child care done, y'all, it's going to lead to a revolution in our public schools. It is about, yes, getting people back to work, putting more money in their pockets so that, they don't have to pay, a mortgage for childcare. It's about those things. But it's also about ensuring that our children, our babies, grow up in nurturing environments. The more our babies grow up in nurturing environments away from trauma, the more ready they are for kindergarten and the more ready they are to thrive in our K-12 public schools. So this is an economic policy, yes, but it's also an education policy. And so for me on a personal level, I have personal experience with these policies, both as a young person growing up in New York and as a professional educator. But also, like, the thing I want to also add, I love New York City. And so, like, my fight, I had it, no disrespect to anybody from Westchester, but I had it in Westchester. And Westchester is different than New York City. So to have an excuse to go to New York City on a consistent basis, jump on a city bike during the spring and summer, and just ride around and feel the energy and the passion for the campaign. Like I was proud of my city in the primary, and I'm proud of my city again now. And so, we're here to figure out and to discuss what the next steps are. First, I just want to encourage us, take a deep breath, take a breather, and soak this in. Tasha may have to go back to work because that's just the life she chose. But for the rest of us, if you don't have to go back to work, take a couple of days to enjoy this, yo. Take a couple of days to enjoy this. Take a couple of days to celebrate it, take a couple days to do a video on it, take a couple days to write about it. Like, we need to just reflect and share this moment with each other and with the entire state and with the entire country. So that's definitely what I think we should do. Secondly, and I want to give a shout out to a young brother, Amir, that's on this call, who I invited to this call, and I believe this is his first DSA meeting. So shout out to Amir. Thank you for coming. I want everyone on this call who hasn't signed up for New York City DSA, please do so. Because honestly, and we know this, whether it's the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, whomever, they are literally in the process of destroying our democracy. Like, we are literally living in a fascist country. Donald Trump is literally taking a wrecking ball to the White House, which is like, it's crazy. Like, he is fucking destroying the White House. DSA, you all, in my opinion, are one of the only organizations fighting to save our democracy. And not just fighting to save it, but living democracy as you fight to save it. And so that is a very powerful thing. And it's something that the entire state can learn from and the entire country can learn from. So I'm going to figure out how to raise some money to pay Tasha to do like Zoom calls with millions of people across the country to teach them to organize so that we can freaking save this country from itself. And then I guess the last thing I want to say is this. It was mentioned that I'm an educator. I've been fighting, some of you know this, before I got to Congress, I was doing a lot of work around education justice. So culturally responsive education, fighting against the overuse and misuse of standardized testing, fighting to fully fund our public schools, fighting to lower class size. You know, I've worked with many organizations, many of you on this call, even before going to Congress. I want you all to think about how much of a sleeping giant our parents and teachers are as it relates to community organizing. They are the ones who are with our kids every single day. Teachers are with our kids, teachers engage our families, families are with our schools, families know what's going on in their lives and in their communities. If we can figure out a way to train teachers and train parents and train more high school students around community organizing, we could do more to hold elected officials accountable to make sure we are successful at implementing Zohran's agenda. And so I'm telling you, when I was in Congress, obviously we took a lot of heat for a lot of things because we were outspoken. My colleagues ain't ready for that smoke, yo. They're not ready for that smoke. And so the more we can organize and hold accountable members of the city council, members of the state legislature, members of Congress, and just be relentless and let them know we ain't going anywhere, that's the power I want to see. That's what I want us to plug into. Sign up to New York City DSA. Take a day or two to celebrate this and breathe it in. And then go to your local public school and give out some lit so that more people can sign up. Get on the next call. Talk to teachers. Talk to parents. And let's build an organizing infrastructure, ecosystem, and machine that helps to decide the next big statewide race, which is the governor's race next year, and then there's going to be Senate races in a couple of years, on and on and on. And we could do this in New York City. We could and must do it in Long Island. We could do it in Westchester County. But let's continue to build power for the people and save our country from these fascists that are trying to destroy it. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. So good to have you. Hell yeah. Let's do all of that. That sounds great. Okay, I'm gonna move us forward though to talk about how we do all of the building and all of the fighting we need to do to actually implement Zohran's affordability agenda. I think we're all here because we know that the fight doesn't stop here. We're ramping up our organizing to win Zohran's agenda. And we have to understand that winning this election gives us and Zohran the right to govern, but it doesn't give us the power to do everything that we know we need. We still have to work for that and we still have to organize for that. And that is why we are here. That is why we want you to join DSA. And that is why I'm really excited to welcome on Jeremy Freeman, who is a very active New York City DSA member, especially through the Electoral Working Group, and was also a super powered volunteer with the Zohran campaign. Many of you may know him through that. He was a field lead in Lower Manhattan, and he built the data tools that supported a lot of our canvassing. If you ever used turf.tools while you were out canvassing, that was Jeremy. But now he's helping to get a new organization off the ground that is aiming to build and maintain the momentum of the campaign so that we can actually fight for and implement the affordability agenda that we all just spent months talking to New Yorkers about. So, Jeremy, please come on and tell us a little bit about our time.
Awesome. Thanks, Grace. It is such an honor and a privilege to be here. It's really quite humbling, especially to be here with folks like Grace and Gustavo and Tasha. Tasha taught me so much of what I know about organizing. So it's really an honor to be here. I'm here and excited to share a bit more about this organization, Our Time, which is a new 501c4 nonprofit that we just announced earlier this morning. So it's all very new. And I want to stress this is just one part of what will come next. And there's a lot more you're going to hear about on this call, but I think it's a really exciting piece of what we're going to be doing. So as we all know, and as we're all a part of, and as DSA helped make happen, this campaign had a truly historic volunteer turnout in the hundreds of more than 100,000. And the goal of this new organization is to provide a space to continue organizing those folks to win and defend the affordability agenda. We want it to be this org to be built like a campaign, fully independent of the administration, but built in a way that learns from how well the Zohran campaign was run, and that can help deliver on the big three planks of the platform. I'll say that the very first time I heard the concept for this, my first question was, isn't this what DSA itself is doing? And I asked that because I'm a dedicated DSA member. So I want to share the answers to that question that really convinced me of what this org could be, and that made me excited enough to really just in the last couple of weeks help get it off the ground. So the first answer is that we got more than 100,000 volunteers involved in this campaign. And we want as many of them as possible to join DSA. If anyone on this call was volunteering and is not a member of DSA, you should join right now. And also those 100,000 folks are not going to all join tomorrow, or even maybe this year. And especially if they're brand new to political activity. I think about my canvassers who, were coming out for the very first time. We think this organization can be a place to continue to engage them and a home for them to continue to be involved and activated and showing up week after week to find ways to deliver on affordability. And then we can help them find their way to DSA and other membership orgs as their long-term political home. So Our Time is not structured as a membership board. It's structured like a campaign, and it can relate to DSA the way other campaigns have. The other thing that I'm just really excited about is that we have a great team to help get this off the ground, composed of DSA members and leaders, like Batul Hassan and David Turner on the board, Magdalena Miranda and Susan Kang on our team. I've had a lot of conversations with folks in DSA leadership and especially Tax the Rich to make sure that we are as fully aligned and collaborating as possible while leveraging the things that I think make this org unique and that we can bring. We're just getting started. There's a lot more to come as we refine the specific campaigns that we'll be working on. We're going to target the big three planks of the platform and try to make all three of them a reality: transit, childcare, and housing. And we're going to share more about the activities we planned and how folks can get involved. So for now, visit the website and sign up. And would love to hear, and please reach out with any questions.
Thank you, Jeremy. I'm so excited to work alongside you on this project. But now I'm going to talk about another aspect of our work. So DSA has obviously made a lot of headlines alongside Zohran and many other organizations with our electoral victory earlier this week. But we've been running elections since 2016. That is how we got so good at it. We kept doing it. We won some, we lost some, but we learned a lot with each campaign. But what a lot of people miss is that what makes our campaigns strong is not necessarily, the candidate themselves. It's not even necessarily just like one or a handful of great organizers. It's that the entire organization is bought in from the very beginning of starting a campaign. We have a very extensive, sometimes frustrating, but always productive endorsement process where thousands of members are welcomed into strategic discussion and really meaningful votes about who we endorse, where we endorse them, and what we are trying to gain by running those races. So we tonight are going to introduce you to two of the candidates that have made it through this endorsement gauntlet. But I also want to encourage all of you to join our members only endorsement forum happening on the 12th. This is one of the first steps in that process where we build the buy-in, the excitement that is needed to really build a truly powerful socialist campaign. So please join us on that at that endorsement on the 12th. I think it's a really great encapsulation of what democracy looks like in practice in a member-driven organization like DSA. But now I get to introduce you to both of the candidates that we've already endorsed. So first, we're going to hear from Christian Celeste Tate, who is an organizer, an advocate, and a democratic socialist that is running to represent Eastern Bushwick and East New York, here where I live in Brooklyn, in the state assembly. He has spent his many years building strong ties with the communities in these neighborhoods and also with DSA and other left organizations. And we're really excited to build on those ties with him to make a strong campaign. So Christian, over to you. We're happy you could join us. Is Christian able to speak?
There we go. Sorry about that. I didn't
There we
have
go.
talking
Thanks,
privileges, but
Christian.
we're out here now.
All yours.
There we go. Thank you very much, Grace. I appreciate you. Hi, everybody. I'm really excited to be here with all of you. As Grace said, I'm come from Bushwick. I have been organizing in my community for years. I'm an advocate and a proud democratic socialist. And I'm running to represent Bushwick and East New York in the State Assembly, Assembly District 54. Right? And I don't have to tell the folks on this call the ways in which the status quo is not just failing us, but suffocating us, right? We just have to look around to see the evidence of that. Developers are making billions of dollars on the backs of working class people, right? Pushing us from our homes and displacing us from our communities. ICE is ripping people from their families and terrorizing our neighborhoods. The city has become unaffordable to the very working class people who built it, right? And meanwhile, we send billions of dollars abroad every year to support genocide. None of that is normal, and none of that has to be this way, right? We have the power to build the city we deserve, one where everyone has access to housing, healthcare, safety, and dignity, and we will build that future together. But in order to do it, we have to stand shoulder to shoulder and keep this momentum growing. I really like what Tasha said earlier about seeing campaigns as on-ramps to the movement, right? I see this campaign as a direct extension of that. During the general election for Zohran, I was a field coordinator for East Brooklyn, which included the East New York side of this district. And I saw firsthand the folks that were coming out and using that campaign as an entry point to the movement. And I see this as a really powerful opportunity for us to continue engaging those folks and build really authentic working class power in communities that are showing us how hungry they are for it. So, I know Ian is going to talk next after me, but I also just want to say how proud I am to be running on a slate with him. Ian and I have been working together in this community for years. Our districts stand right next to each other, only separated by Broadway Avenue. And I've drawn a lot of inspiration from Ian. So, I'm excited. I hope you're hungry to do some work, because the representative said you should take a few days off, but I'm here to tell you not to take too many days off, because we got a lot of work to do. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, Christian. Deeply feel that. We need a little rest, but we got to get to work real soon too. So now I will bring on Ian Huntley. So Ian is a lifelong New Yorker, a renter, a former PTA president, and a retail worker running for assembly in Bed-Stuy on the same slate as Christian. We know that he's going to fight for working New Yorkers because he is one. We also, as an organization, and me personally, know Ian pretty well because he ran with the SA and narrowly lost his race in 2024. But we're not going to miss next year. So I'm really excited to be building again with Ian and thrilled to welcome him on the call. Ian, over to you.
Thank you, Grace. Good evening, everyone. It's really an honor to be with y'all tonight. I'm so excited to see y'all. And I just want to start with a little bit about myself. I joined DSA because it's an organization that knows how to get the goods. Bernie's run, AOC's win, Julia Salazar's first victory. These were huge moments for me personally. They proved there was a place for working class people in politics. I'm grateful and proud to have this organization's endorsement again and to be in this fight with you all. I'm a working father, a former PTA president, and I'm running for state assembly in District 56. Our district sits at the epicenter of the city's housing crisis. My wife and I have experienced firsthand how it's so hard to afford a life for our daughters in Bed-Stuy. People in my neighborhood know what it feels like when big real estate is in control of our homes. When I first moved to Bed-Stuy more than 15 years ago, it's been 17 years now. If you wanted to rent a bedroom apartment, maybe try to start a family, it would have been $1,500, maybe $1,600 a month. If you were to try to do that today, you're looking at about $3,500. That's just starting. And over the same period of time, the Black population in Bed-Stuy dropped from around 60% to 40%. 22,000 of my Black neighbors were displaced because they couldn't afford to live here anymore, because these landlords always need to squeeze a little bit more profit. But my district deserves better, and it knows it deserves better. This district is nearly 80% renters, and 77% of the district voted for Zohran, the rent freeze candidate for mayor. By the way, also, we got to note, 57% of Black New Yorkers across the city voted for Zohran. It's clear that the community stands by our vision, no matter what the propaganda says. We're going to put the focus on keeping rents down, building green social housing, holding bad landlords accountable, and fully funding the NYCHA housing in our district. We're going to take up the mantle of universal childcare on behalf of the struggling parents of this district. I will advocate for the working class Brooklynites and address food insecurity as this country faces deep cuts to SNAP benefits. And we're going to kick ICE out of New York City so my kids' classmates won't have to live in fear for their parents. And most important, we're going to fulfill Zohran's promise by sending a slate to Albany who will tax the rich. We're going to demonstrate that Zohran's win on Tuesday wasn't just some fluke. It was the result of years of building socialism in this city and this country, and a sign of things to come across New York. And I'm excited to be doing it together with you all.
Thank you, Ian and Christian. All right, they didn't call it out, so I will. Ian and Christian are just getting their campaigns off the ground, so we need to fund them so that they can build the kinds of field operations that we saw in Zohran. So please follow that link. Your donation will be split between the two of them, and let's hit the ground running with these two so that we can win Albany and tax the rich. Speaking of taxing the rich, I will. Oh, no, sorry, messed up my agenda. Before we talk about our Tax the Rich campaign, we are going to hear from our labor coordinator, Max, who serves on steering with me and who is going to share with us a bit about some of the exciting labor working group projects that are happening and tell us about the Starbucks workers that are diligently organizing against some of the wealthiest and worst people in the country. Max, go ahead.
Thanks so much, Grace. Hey, everyone. I'm Max. I'm the co-chair of our chapter's labor working group. I'm really excited to be here to talk about labor's role in the Zohran Coalition, why socialists care about unions, DSA's work in the labor movement, and where we go from here. So on Tuesday, Zohran's victory speech began, "For as long as we can remember, the working people of New York have been told by the wealthy and well-connected that power does not belong in their hands. Fingers bruised from lifting boxes on the warehouse floor, palms calloused from delivery bike handlebars, knuckles scarred with kitchen burns, these are the hands that have not been allowed to hold power. And yet, over the last 12 months, you have dared to reach for something greater. That spirit defined his campaign, powered by unions like the Teamsters, SEIU, DC37, UFT, UAW, CWA, PSC CUNY, HTC, and so many more, making it truly a campaign of, by, and for the working class. Historically, unions have been the most powerful tool for working people to challenge organized money. Because workers literally make society run, our ability to withhold our labor gives us immense collective power. And when applied to politics, that power has fueled transformative victories, from the early fights for the 8-hour day and the weekend, to New Deal gains like Social Security, minimum wage, and unemployment insurance, to civil rights and Great Society programs like anti-discrimination legislation, Medicare, and Medicaid, to Zohran's affordability agenda today. Socialists have always organized to make the labor movement more democratic, militant, and focused on universal working class demands. Today, thousands of DSA members are key activists in their unions, organizing new unions in their workplaces, supporting workers on picket lines, participating in labor community coalitions that are fighting Trumpism, and fighting for legislation that empowers worker organizing. The New York City DSA Labor Working Group is doing all of these things and more. 1 week from today, Starbucks workers are striking nationwide for a strong union contract, a historic accomplishment in the service sector, and NYC DSA will be there with them. Join our Starbucks Strike Solidarity launch call on Monday, November 10th at 7 p.m. on Zoom to learn how to plug into this fight and get involved in the labor working group. We'll drop the RSVP link in the chat. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Grace.
Thanks, Max. Okay, so for our final piece of the night, now we're going to talk about taxing the fucking rich. We got to do it to win so many of the things that we need. We need it for Zohran's agenda. We need it for society. So I'm going to pass it over to Ariel, one of our chairs of the Tax the Rich campaign, to talk about how we get there.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ariel. I'm the campaigns coordinator for New York City Democratic Socialists of America. People say this all the time after campaigns, but they do not always mean it. We mean it today. The fight is not over. We ran this mayor's race because we believe in a New York City where everyone can live in dignity that everyone can afford. That means freezing the rent, fast and free buses, universal childcare, and now we are at the moment where we have to deliver. At the same time, Trump is gutting the federal government and cutting off funding to the states. These cuts are enormously harmful to working people all across New York City and New York State. But we can stand up to Trump and implement a democratic socialist agenda, Zohran's agenda, our agenda, at the state level by taxing the rich. We have what we need to ensure a dignified life for everyone. We raise taxes in New York in the New York State budget, which is a document that's negotiated every spring by both houses of the legislature and the governor. The budget is finalized in April, which means we have just 6 months to build a massive campaign to tax the rich for childcare, fast and free buses, and a city we can afford. We have done it before in 2021. Socialists made big wins, and we can do it again. We can win Zohran's agenda, we can stand up to Trump, and we can deliver real wins for working people. We're having a massive kickoff rally on Union Square on November 16th at 12 p.m., and we need to see you there. And then we will have a massive door knocking program so we can keep the good vibes and the canvas vibes from the Zohran campaign going, so we can keep talking to our neighbors about what we deserve, about socialist politics, about the city we can afford and what we need. And we will do this together. We will do this as socialists, as DSA. So my final ask to you, come out on the 16th at the rally and join DSA so we can keep building these campaigns to win real change for working people. Join DSA to continue the momentum from the Zohran race. Join DSA to win a city where each and every person can live a dignified life. Thank you so much.
All right, that is it for us tonight. We said we keep it to an hour. We try to keep our promises. For example, taxing the rich. But we need you to do it. Join DSA. Come to these things. I know there's a lot, but there's a lot we have to fight for and a lot that we deserve and that New York deserves. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of getting Zohran elected. Thank you for being a part of DSA or joining DSA if you're on the fence and haven't yet. And we will see you at the rallies, on the doors, and in the streets. Thank you all.